Melanie trailer. This is week 6 of the Hello Posy Quilt Along, and this is our very last week. So Hello Posy is a pattern in my book, A Life with Quilts. You can find that at meanderanmake.com. There are 5 videos prior to this one, and if you need any help with any of the steps making this quilt, you can find video tutorials in those other posts or other videos. Today, or this week, our task is to sew all of our blocks together and have a finished quilt top. So I'm going to walk you through how I sew my blocks together. Your way may be different, that's okay. But I'm just going to show my own process for those who are looking for guidance. So let's get started. Hi. Okay, so we are going to put our blocks, whether you're putting them on the table, the floor, the design wall like me, or whatever you've got going on. You want your blocks 5 across and 5 down. But if you'll notice, the blocks look like this, right? But you're going to alternate these. You're going to have one going this way and then the next one going that way. And you'll do that per row as well. So you'll always start with one going this way on the first row, and then on the second row, they'll go this way. So they'll alternate all the way across the rows and then all the way down the quilt. And this is just to keep you from having to match up those seams. So if you have it laid out properly, you won't have to worry about pinning or seam matching or anything like that. So let me just take a minute, and I'm going to make sure that I have mine in the layout that I want it in. So I think I've got everything looking the way I wanted it to look. And the kind of things that I was thinking about is, like, some of these are darker, so I made sure that my darker fabrics were spaced out and my lighter fabrics were spaced out. I was being very particular with my background and the low volume. I didn't want 2 of the same low volumes touching and things like that. So these are things that may not bother you, and that's okay. But that's kind of what I was thinking about as I rearranged these blocks just a little bit. I think I'm ready to go. So we're going to sew each of these rows. Now you can do these rows one at a time, but I'm just going to show you the way that I put it together, and that's I start with my bottom row. So I'm just going to grab the bottom row. This. Right, and then I'm going to go to the sewing machine and sew this into a row. So here's what I was talking about, you not having to match those seams up, because this one is going this way, this one is going this. You don't have these 2 seams to match up, so it makes it a lot more simpler to sew them together. So we're just going to put these together like this, and then I'm going to use my 1/4 inch seam and sew them together. And I'm going to do that all the way down the row. Grab my next 2, and the same thing. And then these are my 1-2 blocks, and these are 3-4. So these go on top of here, and then we sew this together. And sew. The row together. Okay, so this is that last block in the row, and I like to set, when they're this size blocks, big blocks like this, I like to turn it this way on my pressing mat, and we're going to press all the seams going this way for this one. It actually doesn't matter whether you start left or right on these seams, as long as you alternate each block. But I'm going to do towards the right of the row, and I'm just going to make sure that the seams are all going in that direction and press. And I'm going to work my way down the row, pressing each of these block seams to the right of the end of the row. right, so here's this row. I like to lay it out here. All right, so now I'm gonna go and get my next row. All right, so now we're gonna go get the second from the bottom row. All right, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna sew this together. All right, and this time we're gonna press the seams in the opposite direction. All right, so these seams are gonna go this way towards the first blocks in the row, so away from the ends. And then I'm just gonna work my way down the row, pressing those seams this way. When I'm pressing a row and it's got really small blocks, I usually do it in this direction of my pressing mat, but when the blocks are big, I do it this way. I just find it a little bit easier. Okay, all right, so here's the row that I just pressed, and now we're just going to flip it on top of our very bottom row, and I'm going to nest the seams up so they'll just get nested. I'll feel where they bump up and kiss within my forefinger and thumb, and then I'm just going to put a pin right there on that seam, and then I'm going to do the same thing, or well, not the same thing. I'm going to pin right here where they start, and then I'm going to pin one more pin right here in the middle of each of the blocks. And then I'll work my way down these rows, doing the same kind of pinning. Where the blocks meet, I'll nest, and in the middle, I'll just kind of pin them together. All right, and then one more to pin the two ends up, or together. And then one right here in the middle. All right. All right, so now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna sew these two rows together right here along this edge. Okay, all sewn. I like to set these seams because I feel like it keeps my seam from acting crazy or not going in the direction I want it. It just goes, the seams just go in the direction I want them to easier when I press them right after I sew them before I start sending them in certain directions. So I like to take a minute and do this. All right, so when we sew our rows together like this, we're just gonna press all the seams up. So this seam right here, and I'm just gonna pull this up like this, and then that'll put the seam in the direction I want it in, and then I just make sure it stays there as I press. Scooch it down and then do the rest of this row. And right here at the end, it always tries to flip that seam, I guess from me pulling on it. It gets righted pretty quickly. All right, that's 2 rows down. Okay, so that's what I will do for the rest of this quilt. So when I grab my next row, it'll be this row. I'll sew this row together, press it, set it down. I'll do this row, press it, and then I'll sew these 2 rows together. When I get these 2 rows done, I'll sew this one, press it, sew it to these 3, and then also these 3 to those other 2 that we've already done. So that's the way I'll complete this whole quilt. I will show it to you when I got it done. Okay, done. Let me show you a better look. Okay. There. 6 weeks of work all finished up. I can't believe we're done. This has been so much fun. I want to thank you for joining this quilt along and making Hello Posy Quilt with me. And this is our last post, so this is going to wrap up the whole thing. October, we start the very last quilt in the book, A Life with Quilts. That quilt is Attic Window, which is going to be lots of fun. It's all on point. This is going to be a fun quilt to make. So if you are interested in the attic window quilt along, stay on this newsletter email list, and as soon as we get close to that, you'll start receiving the emails about attic window. If you are watching this video and you're not on that list, there is a link in the caption below, or if you're looking at this on my blog, there's a link for it near this video as well, so that you can get signed up. I will see you in October.